So this is a good one. It's all about calorie intake. So I'm like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
This young man is 15 years old and he's 6 feet tall.
That's tall for 15.
That is tall, absolutely. I aspire to hit 6 feet by 60, hopefully. It's just really slowed down the past couple decades. So anyways, he says, I've had trouble managing my weight my entire life. In the last year and a half, I've gone from around 80 kilos to 62 kilos, which is approximately 176 pounds to 136 pounds. I now keep a diet of 1,200 calories daily, plus the amount I burn from exercise. However, I've been thinking of changing my daily intake from 1,200 calories plus calories burnt to 1,500 calories plus calories burnt. Should I? Right off, I have a couple questions. This is not clear at all.
Well, yeah, I have a couple questions too. Can you just make that in layman's speak? What is he talking with calories burned plus?
Well, see, that's where it's not that clear. And this is one of the situations where I'm not going to say I'm not giving advice, because I am giving advice and I am actually technically an expert in this. My degree is in this and I've been practicing this for over 20 years.
There you go.
This is advice. I was really looking forward to saying that. That's where this gets a little murky, because it's unclear if he is calculating his basal metabolic rate, which would be the amount of calories he burned if he laid in bed and did nothing. And then this is in a fasted state. So even not accounting for digestion, what would be burnt through thermogenesis through digestion. So if he just laid in bed and was completely stationary for 24 hours, that's what your basal metabolic rate is. So it's unclear if that's what he's talking about, plus 1,200 calories, or let's say he walks on the treadmill for however length of time and he burns 100 calories. Is he just taking that exercise, whatever he figures he burned on exercise, and adding to the 1,200 calories? Because there's a very large difference. Just to add a little context or additional information, for this young man, based on his age and his height and an assumed lightly active to moderately active lifestyle, his basal metabolic rate would be about 1,700 calories. So for maintenance, for somebody like this, you're looking at 2,300 to 2,600 calories. So you can already see if he's just taking the calories he figured he burned during exercise and adding to the 1,200 or 1,500, he's way under. And that can be dangerous for somebody that's so young and is actively growing. I throw all that out there. I've got some thoughts. First, I want to see what yours are.
That was my initial response when I read that. I've said this many times. I'm math illiterate. For me, the best math I do is converting kilos to pounds. So I did that part. I was like, I feel so good about myself. But then you get into the calories, and I know that is low, especially for someone who is young and growing. And to be as tall as he is, he's got to be burning a lot more calories to be putting on that height. I'm curious to know if the 80 kilos was when he was shorter, and if he's grown in addition to trying to lose weight while growing. There's so many variables here, and it's a tricky time in life because you can go through spurts really quick.
Yeah, overnight almost. So when I first saw this, originally I wasn't sure what the goal was, because it wasn't clear the way it was composed as to whether or not he wanted to gain weight or if he wanted to lose weight. And initially my head went to gain weight because he's 15 and he's 6 feet tall. And, he's dropped from 176 to 136. I'm like, oh yeah, he's having trouble keeping it on. But I was later able to determine that, in fact, what he's talking about is keeping weight off. I'm not sure how he got where he is mentally, or with wanting to keep his weight as low as he's trying to, or even drive it lower, which it seems might be the case. But first I'd call out, you're 6 feet tall, you're 15 years old, you're growing. Ideally, if you don't do anything crazy, you'll continue to grow for years to come. Even if you don't get much taller, you'll certainly fill out. And so going on a very low calorie diet is not advisable.
Yeah, to me, immediately, I think of male body dysmorphia. And that's something that we've tiptoed around a little bit in the past. Just for context, how tall are you and what do you weigh right now?
Great question, because that leads into something I think might be behind this, and that is the body mass index, right? So to answer your question, I'm 5'6", and I'm 180 pounds. And I range anywhere from 150, I competed at that weight, and I've gotten as high as 230. And so even at 150, technically my BMI is higher than it should be, right? What's interesting is if you take his height and weight and his age, what you get is actually a BMI that's at the very low range of normal. So I'm wondering if he's gauging it off of that.
I think there's a difference in someone's mind when they think of, oh man, this guy looks cut, he's got to weigh X. But you don't factor in the difference between fat and muscle in terms of weight. While you are 5'6", 180 right now, I'm 5'11", and when I was at my leanest as a, I guess you could say, competing at a competitive mindset in CrossFit, I weighed 185.
Yeah.
So 5 pounds more than you with, what is that math?
5 inches.
Yeah. So 5 pounds more than you with a 5-inch height difference. And currently, I'm sitting at still 5'11", but between 210 and 215. It's not fat, but when you add muscle, your weight goes up disproportionately to your body in terms of what the BMI has you thinking that if you're X, Y, or Z on the BMI chart, you're fat or overweight. And there's a big difference there. So I actually, the first time I saw my primary care physician, he walked in the room and looked at me, looked down at the chart, looked back at me and was like, huh, thought you'd be fatter. Like, I mean, he's a no-nonsense
Great
kind of guy.
bedside manner, doc.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, not appropriate thing to say. But he was looking at the BMI and assuming he knew what I looked like based on that number. And that's the same thing that young men suffer from all the time, is looking at BMI and figuring they should be X, Y, or Z.
It is such a flawed system. And I have spent a lot of time in the overweight and even the obese category of the BMI. And granted, I'm not always super shredded. When I bulk up, I do put some fat on. But you're telling me I've got a BMI of 39 or 40 and I can still see a couple abs and shadows? No, that's not unhealthy. It's more weight than someone my size would typically carry, but there is a huge difference between fat, bad weight, and lean tissue, good weight.
Yeah, and that's kind of what you're getting at here. And one of the things that you have to be particularly cautious of at this age is if you are underfeeding yourself, your body is going to be pulling from muscle. Your body is going to be pulling from other areas in your body that you're not using sufficiently enough, or that aren't being used as critically as what actually needs those nutrients to survive. And so you can actually undereat to the point where you're starving yourself and you wind up losing muscle when you're trying to lose fat, or perceiving that you need to lose fat. You're cannibalizing muscle so your body can survive.
Yeah, so in short, to answer your question, yes, up it to 1,500 plus whatever. But if this was somebody I could sit down, and work with, first I'd find out what their goals are and why their goals are that. And then we'd identify the underlying issues and try and work on those. Again, I really would warn you against focusing on reducing calories at that age. Again, if you are active at all, you need to fuel your body. And people joke about it all the time. Parents joke about it all the time. Ravenous teenage boys, because they're growing like freaking weeds. And you can eat whatever you want, as much as you want. And for the most part, if you're fairly active and healthy, it's going to turn into good quality mass for you. For a lot of people, it does, barring any hormone issues or things like that. So really starve yourself is not a good path to start on, and you can do damage that you will have to deal with for the rest of your life if you do that.
My guess is that what he's talking about, when he was 80 kilos, he was probably a lot shorter. And I think of my nephew Ivan, who I wrote the book for. I see him every summer, basically. The last summer I saw him before he grew, he was short, stocky kid. He's a little fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me that kids were picking on him because he was a little fluffy, this and that. And I just told him, just wait it out, man, because as soon as you start growing, all of that's going to change. And it has. Literally over the course of one school year, I saw him the next summer, he grew about 6 inches. Ooh. He's almost as tall as me now, and he's leaned out dramatically. And it's just the natural path that your body takes through that process. So if you're basing, someone making fun of you for being 80 kilos at even 5 feet tall, all right, now you're 6 feet tall, bro. You need that weight. You need that mass. And you've got so much more to build on. Even if you're not going to be a competitive athlete, at 6 feet tall, 185, 200 pounds is not ridiculous. 200 pounds can be a healthy body weight for someone who's 6 feet tall who's just moderately active.
Absolutely. 200 pounds can be a healthy body weight for somebody that's 5'2". It just depends on what it is.
I'm in agreement with you. Don't put too much stock in what X, Y, or Z chart has to say about it. It's how does it look on you? How do you feel? Do you have low energy? Because that's another sign that you're not eating enough. If you are tired all the time, regardless of how much you're sleeping, you're going to be tired if your body is struggling to get enough nutrients.
Yeah, absolutely. Take fat, for example. If you are under consuming calories in general, you are probably under consuming fat. What happens if you don't get enough fat? There are all sorts of hormonal implications surrounding that can affect anything from sleep to continued growth and development, cognitive function, health, immunity, all these things. So yeah, I would not fucking do that.
Don't be afraid of fat. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
there,
certainly
right?
not. Certainly not. I'm really curious to understand the goals and the reasoning behind them. If you just feel good at a lighter weight, that's okay. You can do that and be healthy. As Tom said earlier, don't let somebody else's opinion of you, don't let somebody else that said something maybe you took the wrong way in passing, or somebody that actually made fun of you, blatantly bullied you, don't let that affect you to such a point where you're going to do something that could have lasting implications.
Yeah, just remember you're in a transitional phase right now, and things will start to level out as you go through those growth spurts. And you might have more than one, man. You might be 6 foot right now, and next year you're going to be 6'5". So you have to feed yourself and feed your body with the expectation that you're going to grow into it. And over time, you absolutely will. And once you get to that plateau, you finish growing, your body is where it's going to be, then you decide what you want your body composition to be, and you can play with that like Will was talking about. Figure out, do I want to be super lean and shredded, or do I want to be a little bit bulkier, carry a little bit more heft? Depends on, are you playing football, are you playing line, are you playing wide receiver? It depends on any number of things, but it's so variable that without being more specific in what your goals are, and perhaps you don't even have them, maybe right now your goal is simply not to be bullied. That's fine, that's fair and legitimate, but don't let that dictate what you do and inhibit your ability to be healthy later in life.
Yeah, and another thing to mention, hey, we all need big friends, and don't rob somebody of that experience. I'm currently what they refer to as victim weight, right?
And I'm your big friends.
Well, you're not quite 6 feet, buddy, but you're definitely one of the stockier people I know. Anything else to touch on that? I think that was generally the main points. Don't let this consume everything about you. As people and as individuals, we're so much more complex than one facet, than fitness, than whatever, how much weight we can move, how little body fat we have. Pursue the goals you have. Pursue these goals in a smart way. Get help if you need it. Educate yourself. But don't let it become so negative and toxic that you do dumb things or you let it ruin your social life. Try and have a balanced life.
Yeah, enjoy the freaking ride. Because
man.
Honestly, these years, as shitty as they seem a lot of the time, it doesn't get much easier.
It really doesn't.
You can say you might get some more freedoms at a certain point, but even those, you're constrained by so many things. None of us are really truly free to do what we want. And when you have a job and you are paying your entire way, and it puts a limit and constraints on what you can do with your free time, you have probably the most free time now that you'll ever have. So freaking enjoy yourself and don't worry about the small shit.
Yeah, to that point, you might be thinking, man, I would love to have your experience, your knowledge, and be able to manipulate my body as easily as you say you can, right? Yeah, and I'd like not to get up every day and have something hurt and have to move my training plan or my split around to modify it to account for overuse injuries, aches, pains, things of that nature. So, I understand the grass is always greener on the other side. Don't wish it away, man. As Tom said, these are truly the good years, my friend.
Yep, absolutely. Wish you the best of luck with that, and would love to hear from you again, and just let us know if you have more specifics about whether it's a question of how to get to X, Y, or Z goal that you have. I think Will would love to dive into that and give you some more specific advice and guidance. But again, we're shooting from the hip in terms of looking at it from multiple perspectives, what possibly could be a suite of issues. And hopefully this not only helps the young man who sent this in, but also anyone else who's listening with a related issue or question. It goes for anybody. If you have a question, feel free to reach out to us. You can send an email to the link here. You can visit thathighschoolbook.com, hit us up in the contact section, and keep it anonymous if you want, but that's what we're here for. We're giving that old man uncle advice, and we're not your parents, so we're not going to tell you what to do or not to do, but we'll give you the open, honest, and truthful experience from our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about. So, but yeah, if you want to come back, throw some more specific information, what the goal is, all that, I would love to answer that. Did you have anything else?
Yeah. Catch you next week, same time, same place.
Sounds good, man.
All right, brother. Take care.
See ya.